Ever wondered what drugs can do to you? Well, look no further, because today, Harry and I are going to be covering the effects of certain drugs on the brain.
Dineth and I are going to cover caffeine, the world's most widely used everyday drug, alcohol, a common drink that is very much an important part of the 21st century's culture, and finally marijuana, one of the world's most widely used illicit drugs that is nowadays being used in medicine.
Let's get right into it and first cover caffeine.
Caffeine is one of the world's most widely used drugs, and about 100,000 tons is consumed every year. Most of this caffeine is consumed in coffee, tea, soft drinks and chocolate. It has many effects on both the psychological and biological pathways of our body, positive and negative.
Its main effects involve it being a stimulant for the central nervous system. Our body has a key sleep-inducing substance called adenosine. In your brain, there are many receptors for adenosine to bind, and when adenosine binds to them, it releases many chemicals into your body that make you feel more sluggish and sleepier. Caffeine is an adenosine receptor antagonist. It is both structurally and chemically similar to adenosine. This means that it can bind to the adenosine receptors in lieu of adenosine, thus the main effects of adenosine are nullified. This is the part that makes you more alert.
Another effect of caffeine is that it releases the neurotransmitter dopamine, the happiness molecule. This is what contributes to the rush of happiness or joy that you feel after a cup of coffee. The binding of caffeine to the adenosine receptors also seems to be linked with the release of adrenaline, the fight or flight hormone. This release of adrenaline gets your heart beating faster, increases blood flow, and even opens up your airways for improved breathing.
Despite all the seemingly amazing effects of coffee, there are some major negative effects as well. Firstly, in response to the consumption of coffee, your brain creates more adenosine receptors in the hope that adenosine successfully binds. This means you will need more coffee to elicit the same response that you got the first time you drank coffee. This has the added negative effect that when your caffeine intake ceases, you will face withdrawal symptoms such as nausea and extreme fatigue. These facts are the parts that make coffee and caffeinated drinks in general addictive, as you will need to consume more and more caffeine non-stop.
The effects of caffeine in reducing sleepiness, sluggishness and fatigue in general has been demonstrated through a prior study on the effects of caffeine and adenosine on fatigue, carried out by the Departments of Exercise Science, Pharmacology and Physiology in the University of South Carolina. In summary, rats which were slightly physically modified and similar in fitness levels were administered caffeine and NECA, which is another adenosine receptor antagonist. They were then all made to run on a treadmill until they could not run any further, with an average run time being recorded. From this study, it was found that caffeine increases the time that rats could exercise before they reach fatigue. The scientists at the university proved that in rats, caffeine actually blocks the brain's adenosine receptors, thus reducing fatigue.
Next, let's go into marijuana. Marijuana, which is also commonly known as cannabis, is another drug that, even though it is illegal, is widely consumed and used around the world, being the most used illicit drug in America and Australia, and has many effects on the brain.
When smoked, marijuana releases a chemical THC, which is chemically and structurally similar to one of our own neurotransmitters, anandamide. All neurons after firing a signal have a short rest period in which they do not send any messages. This is in order to maintain a balanced and calm nature. What THC does is it drastically reduces this resting period, causing all of your senses to be magnified. What happens is that whenever you think about or focus on some thought, your entire chain of thought becomes dedicated to it, and all your other senses become dulled because you are so caught up in that thought. That is, until something else comes along to distract you.
Sounds quite harmless, right? Well, wrong. Marijuana has some very harmful short-term side effects, including nausea and dizziness, and many long-term side effects such as respiratory cancers and cardiovascular damage. In one study done by Madeline Mayer from the Department of Psychology and Neuroscience of the Duke University in Durham, the persistent use of marijuana was related to neuropsychological decline across areas such as functioning even after years of education, in addition to the loss of IQ. It was also reported that there were many cognitive problems for regular marijuana users. A more disturbing fact that was found from this study is that once use of marijuana stopped the functioning of the brain and did not return to normal in people who started using it in adolescence. These findings show the neurotoxic effects of marijuana in the use of adolescents.
Next, let's talk about one of the most widely used adult beverages. Alcohol is one of the most commonly used and abused drug in the world, following only short from caffeine. It comes in many forms such as wine and beer. Alcohol is a drug that suppresses the excitation or firing of neuron, whilst increasing inhibition, the ceasing of firing of neurons, whilst also stimulating perception of signals. This has the overall effect of slowing down the transmissions of chemical messages throughout your body, meaning you feel, perceive, and remember less when under the influence of alcohol. As mentioned previously, alcohol also increases perception, meaning that your brain fine-tunes and narrows down your thoughts to a single topic, but this happens excessively to a point where it is a negative.
This is why many people under the influence of alcohol do not think very deeply, but rather focus on a single insignificant fact. Negative short-term effects of alcohol consumption include lack of reflex, sleep disturbance, or loss of coordination, and blurred vision. Negative long-term effects of alcohol include brain damage and dementia, and increased chances of heart disease.
The effects can be proved through a study conducted by Aaron White from the Department of Psychiatry of Duke University in Durham. He conducted an email survey of 772 college students about their experience with alcohol. 51 of these students who had ever consumed alcohol reported they had experienced a blackout, with 40% having experienced one in the year before the survey. Risky behavior that could have ended disastrously.
Overall, the effects of common drugs may have some benefit to us in very small quantities. However, the long-term negative effects cannot be ignored.
We hope you learned something, and thanks for watching.